Actually, all crime is based on that. Like, I'm in a tough situation, I have to find a way out of survival. And definitely, if we justify that, however small it may look, all those big crimes, open up the space.
So we all agree that we punish the survivor.
It's unfair.
Yes.
Well, the reason why I ask this question is because I find that the youth and us in the public today find it very hard to describe what justice is, what fairness is, because of that thin line between the two. And I think I would like to ask Monica, what do you describe as fair and just?
All right. Personally, what I think fair and just is now in that particular situation is simply if tables were flipped. That's what I always tell people. That's a threshold. If tables were flipped, would you be comfortable having the same thing being done unto you? So if tables were flipped and that boy was the owner of that shop, would he appreciate someone else coming in? Because we don't even know the status of that shop. What if they're already operating in deficits? That one bread could actually be the one thing that will push them into filing for insolvency. That is unfair to them. But if you come and you ask, then it would be different. So I feel like we also have to draw a line between what is fair, what is just, and then empathy. You get, because it's very easy to submit with man that kid needed to survive and ABCD. But was it fair and was it just? So turning tables around, let that be a threshold. If you were on the other side of it, would you be comfortable having that done unto you? Or would you do it to someone who is your beloved or someone you
respect?
Exactly.
Dr. Patricia, what do you describe as fairness and justice?
You see, because I'm in the company of lawyers to be, who are members of Uganda Christian Lawyers Fraternity, these lawyers know a man called Aristotle. Aristotle, in his book, said those who are equals must be treated equally, unequals must be treated unequally. And in so saying, he meant that there should be some kind of positive discrimination. Those who are in a certain category should be treated the same way, you know? So what is fair is, like Hannah has said, maybe I can build on that, do to others what you expect them do and to you. So if you're in that category and you have your entitlements or your benefits, you should all be enjoying the same. That is why we have persons with disability clustered separately and they're given fair treatment. To access buildings, they have special places of convenience, access, they come with their aid. If you've organized a conference of 20 of them, there are 40, because you have to reasonably accommodate their aids. Yes. So fairness is about doing to others what we expect them to do to us, because, and then in law, in how we dispense of justice, how do we say it is fair? We look at the circumstances surrounding a case, surrounding an offense, like this example of the boy. Look at all the circumstances. What is it? Causation. Did he have the mens rea? Did he have prior preparations before he went into committing that act? So we look at what is fair. What about the implications on the environment and the society around him where he lives? Like Joel says, it will pass a bad precedent. He should be punished. Because other children will see and say, but the other day he went and stole bread and they left him. So I think it's very important for us, if it is that category, the age group, the juvenile offenders, if we have been lenient to X, we should also show leniency to Y, given the circumstances under which the offenses have taken place.
That's true. Joel, I think I would like to ask you this question. Most times we think, when we hear about justice and fairness, we are thinking of the law, think about the Constitution. What? That's why sometimes we as the youth, we ignore that sense of justice and fairness. But I want us to break it down to a personal level. Justice and fairness as an individual.
So I do not believe justice is all about the judges and the courts and these people in the offices, like the MPs. They have to do justice to the people that they rule. Justice is something that we should bring home, something that should be a part of our daily decisions. I believe justice, there is a notion of justice that touches the decisions that we make. how are you treating somebody that is next to you? Would you like to be treated the same way if you're in that situation? Like you are saying, like, if the tables were flipped and you're on the other side of the table, you know, it's very easy. When you're the judge, you can say, this person is evil, this person is doing all these terrible things, hang him, do this to him. What if tables were flipped and you're on the other side of the bench? What would you like to be done to you? And I believe that all through our lives we have situations where we have to make, we have to make these decisions. You're in school, you have to be fair to yourself and say, I did not read for this exam.
Let me go and fail.
And I know that I did not read. Okay? Fairly, like, to be fair, I cannot carry such material because it may not harm anyone by now. So you may do some wrongs, and there is nobody that will be harmed. Okay.
It's interesting to me how far we have gone with the cheating issue, especially in university. I watched a video recently of, as girls, we love beauty and then we wear the wigs. So someone put a phone at the back of her wig and put in earpieces. You see how my hair is long? I just do this and cover the earpieces. And I'm in the exam writing and I'm just asking the questions, what's the answer to this? The person is sitting on the other line.
Okay, what? How?
Oh my.
Wow.
Yes. So how far are we willing to go
With regards to
injustice?
I don't know. I feel like, okay, from that example alone, it goes down to personal conviction as well. Because now we're saying it's not something that is left only for the courts, only for the people in offices and all that stuff. Sometimes it goes down to you as an individual. What makes you sleep at night? How do you do something like that? And then you're like, man, the end is the degree, the means, the end justifies the means. Like, we're not here for anything else. But at the end of it all, when you go to certain spaces, how do you stand and articulate, or I don't know, stand for your results when you know that is how you got it? There has to be a light in you that makes you uncomfortable because of how you arrived at what you arrived at.
Yeah.
So I feel like personal conviction too. Let me be fair. It may, like Saka was saying, it may not harm anyone. Nobody may get to know about it. But how does it make you feel as an individual? When they tell you to describe yourself, would you dare to put integrity among them? Because what you did is weird. It's wrong. Honestly, so it's personal too.
Dr. Patricia, I know you face this a lot wherever you are. The issue of people being unjust and they lack fairness in their work and all these different things. Do you really think it's because of their personal characteristics, decisions? It's because of their personal decisions.
Thank you.
Or the situation.
I think I want to pull it from home. In families, when we talk about fairness, are we acting fair and just to the children we have? Do we treat them the same? Now, when you see discrimination, you said we should not be so academic, but the Constitution, Article 21, talks about this. There should be no discrimination in whatever grounds, and the grounds are there. Discrimination, the grounds of religious background, age, sex, whatnot, and so on. When you bring it from home, when you're raising up children, do you treat them all fairly, or there is discrimination among them? What about the food we serve at home? Do the house helps and the other workers eat the same meal your children are eating? So I think fairness is something that should be across the board. And when you bring it to the office, do we treat our subordinates the same, or we are giving unfair advantage to others? In the classroom, if you're a class prefect or class monitor or local prefect, when you're asked to punish the others for making noise in class, do you discriminate and say, my friends will not be in this category? And so sometimes you find clashes, but I know that there is the aspect of positive discrimination, and the example of which I gave for persons with disability, or if you have a child who needs additional care and support, maybe you look at it from that perspective. But all in all, I think people need to be treated the same, because remember, we are all human beings. We all need food. we all breathe in oxygen, and we all fall sick. So when it comes to access to treatment or medical care, it should be the same. So eventually, even when we talk about distributive justice,
yes,
resources should be distributed equally across the board in planning, in different ministries, departments, and agencies. Not saying that Kabera Maido should get less, Moyo should get more, and so on. It should be fairly across the board, because the people in those districts or regions all need the same services. They need health care, they need school, they need good roads, they need facilities, and so on. So when we talk about fairness, as human beings, going back to our values, if there is fairness in the decisions we take, right from the time we are students, young and growing up, up to the time we get fitted into the society, I think it's very important that we are mindful about the kind of decisions we take. Recently, I was struggling with some districts, district service commissions. People have done interviews, they have excelled, and then in their decisions are like, son of the soil should be considered. Or someone has paid, allegations of payment. So the people who have excelled, who should be taking up the positions, are then left out. So I see that as unfairness. So if we are to be fair and promote these values and inculcate these values in our children, I think it's important that we walk the talk. Walk the talk, yes.
Walking the talk. Let's just take a break. When we get back, we'll be on the how factor. How do we walk the talk? Welcome back from that short break. This is still Your Space with your host, Hannah Arinaito. We are still dissecting the issue of justice and fairness, and we have talked about so many different things. But here is the most important question. How can we achieve this? Monica,
Yes,
how can we physically and practically achieve justice and fairness in our homes, in our schools, in our day-to-day lives? How can we do that?
Again, I think it goes back to our personal spaces of you as an individual. What are those things that you can do? For instance, fairness. Now we know the threshold is if okay, do unto others what you want done unto you, right? That means that when you're in spaces of let me say, when you're in a space where you have the upper hand, you will know how to do certain things, and it starts from there, then builds up. For instance, you're in a home and then you're telling your children, I'm going to reward good behavior, right? And that is irrespective of whether you're the older one or the younger one. If someone wakes up in the morning, cleans the house, that means they make an omelette for breakfast. The rest of you just eat the bread the way it is, right? So if you wake up and then that is the threshold. Someone wakes up and does that, and then you reach at the table and there is this young one coming and it's like, Mommy, I also want. And just because they're young, you're doing it, you're already this. It seems like, man, they are children, they are babies. People should be able to understand this. The eldest may understand, but that middle child who wins this one by like a year and a half may not understand. So it goes down to those primal practices. What are you showing your children at home? Are you true to your word? Are you true to your standards? Do you follow the principles that you have set? And when you do them, when the impacts, in places where you have failed to live up to those places, do you actually go back and you say, okay, yeah, I was supposed to do ABCD as per fairness, as per justice, but I failed in that area and I am sorry. Because that is also something, when you apologize for falling short, it gives you a place to start again, right? Yes, so I think the best thing is to take on these things as an individual, make the decision in your personal private space that this is how I'm going to operate. I'm going to be fair, I'm going to be glad. For instance, you are at the roadside, this happens to us a lot. You're at the roadside and then you stop a border and then someone else stops as well, then both borders are coming at you and you don't know which one to take. Fairness and justice literally says take the one that stopped first, right? But now you're like, no, the other one's seat is
looks better.
So I'm going to take the other, and then you chase this one away. It may mean to you at that material moment may not actually count, but there is something that you have sent in the mind of very many people watching you. And like I said, it really goes back to that personal private space.
Some of these things are really unconscious. I had never thought, and to whichever border I have been unfair to, I am very sorry. Joel, I know you are a student. I am a 22-year-old student at Makerere University, and I am struggling to have fairness and justice in my day-to-day life, what can I do?
It's very important to put your desires in check. Of course, as a human being, it's human to desire all the best places, the best things, everything for us, like everything for me. Everything should come to my family, everything should come to the son of the soil, like you say, and everything like should resonate in your direction. And I think that is what is causing the biggest challenge, because if you don't put your desires in check, you'll end up like all the corruption, all the unfairness, you do anything, push people along the way, step, and even you can't even take bodies, like we've seen guys like just for the sake of power.
I know, we're having people killed.
Yes.
Yeah, we're having people killed. So it is, I think our desires should be put in check daily. You make a conscious decision and say, today I'm going to do what's fair. If I may want it for me, but someone may deserve it. Like someone may be in a better position to take it. Yeah, as compared to me. I think that place of desires is also some place to start a daily decision.
Yeah, desire.
Yeah.
Dr. Patricia, I am now a 24-year-old. I have graduated university and I'm going into the workspace. How can I be just and fair, even when the situations around me are really pushing me to be that bad person in the workplace? What can I do?
I think it's about having a self-evaluation. You can examine your life and see where there are weaknesses and be able to work on the weaknesses. For instance, young people like at 22, 24 are full of energy. They want to have their way all the time. When you go to the bank, tell yourself, no, Patricia, I will have to queue because everybody else is queuing. When I go to the supermarket and people are queuing to clear off, I should be able to diligently follow the line. Going to myself, by virtue of my position today, when I go to the ATM, they want to take me straight to get the money. But I have to say hello and sorry to the people who are queuing, then I get, and then they also just see and say, this person surely. Yes. I'll give you an example. Recently I was coming from Moyo, descending down to Ajumani, and there is a ferry in between. So we got at the ferry crossing point and we found that the ferry was now loading. People were going to begin boarding. But my convoy was late for the ferry. But on arrival at the point, they were beginning to ask the other people to reverse their cars and get out and distort the whole system. So I said, no, let them cross. The ferry will come back.
Yes,
And we were able to wait.
That's humbling.
Because it passes a very bad signal when you arrive and then you distort the system that is there and people are pulled off the ferry because you have arrived. But remember, we said, we are all human beings. We all breathe in and out of the same oxygen and we need to enjoy things around us the same manner. So if we can take turns, like going back to family, is it only one child who is washing the dishes? Turns. If X has washed, then Y can wash and Z can also wash. Same to housework. It starts from home. I started in Pretoria and I would go to McDonald's sometimes and KFC, but you'd find everybody lining and waiting for their turn. Irrespective of the age, irrespective of whether it's a student or working class or a child, everybody would be queuing to pay. At one point I was like, are they giving these things free today? But everybody is paying. So it's about a thing of the mind. If I discipline myself, examine myself and say, for me, I think I want to set a standard here and set a good example, then I will be able to queue and wait for my turn, and it promotes fairness. Yes, across the board.
It's really interesting to me that you can be in a line and there are just two people for you to reach, but even when they are just two people, you still want to cut the line, my friend.
But the manager of the bank may see this elderly person or expecting mother and say, positive discrimination. Please allow me cross with this mother so that she gets the service because she may give birth here.
Yes. But let's look at the community, because I've realized something. We have so many desires, like Joel has stated. Sometimes we just feel like we want to just be unjust in all these things. Could this be the reason as to why we are having so much friction and ruckus in our society? I do see in Kenya people actually rioting because they are tired of the unjust prices and, you know, all these different things. Do you think if we promoted justice, we would not have so much of that friction?
Yeah, I really do believe we would cut it down or even kill it as a whole. Because if I know that this is what is applicable to everyone, then I'm going to, and I'm aggrieved by that particular thing, I'm going to approach it differently. But if I know there is a special sect of people having a certain kind of treatment, kind of like the French Revolution situation, there are those who are having it so easy they don't even have a clue about what is happening on the streets, the prices that are up, what they're going through, and all those things. If you know, if you're living and you know there is a class that is so untouched about what you're going through, and then there is you who is really feeling it so hard, but then again, the ones who are not feeling it are the ones who are supposed to sit there and legislate for you, or maybe not like for the French Revolution thing, they're the ones who are supposed to sit and think and find solutions for you. You may see that when you bring it out to them and you speak to them, they don't get it. So that is where the friction comes in. You feel like peace can't work. Let us go with violence.
In Makerere, we call it wewe. Now we are tired of Chimeza. We're tired of Chimeza. We now want wewe. Joel, have you ever been part of wewe? And why? Why were you part of wewe? You're a good boy.
At least I've come in that. At least I've come in that time in Makerere where strikes are not that common. Apart from that recent one, was it last year? Yeah, was it last year? But of course, I won't say I'm a freak, but
no, you stay away from violence. Individual.
Yeah. But also, corruption. We're having the challenge of corruption today. It thrives in a society where people are selfish, where people think about me, myself, and I. Selfish tendencies make people indulge in acts of corruption. And like Hannah, you said, a society that is not happy, that is not treated fairly, will want to come out in an uprising. And that takes us to the example of the French Revolution. When people are not happy, they want to challenge the systems. So I think that selfishness needs to be dealt with, and it goes back to mindset change.
We just have a few minutes to the end of the show, but I'd just like to ask each one of you to give your final words on this point of view. And as you give your final word, do you think we can achieve fairness?
It's a long shot, but we could try. Yes, and final word out there is, let us start with you. Start doing that one thing that you believe is important.
Joel?
Yeah, it comes to personal convictions. Let the convictions of your attitudes and the teachings that you've got, at least today, let they be stronger than your desires. I'm not saying that it can easily be achieved every day, but like in one day.
One time,
but a step at a time.
Doctor?
I think it calls for self-examination. We need to examine our lives. We need to think about those things which make us be unfair to others, and need to work on our weaknesses so that we have a total mindset change and go out there and are exemplary. Because if we're exemplary, then other people will see and admire and say, hey, this category of young people today are exemplary, and they're passing on a very good message to do with values to others. As we promote fairness. Yes.
Just take one step at a time. I know that song, I love it so much. Take one step at a time, and we shall reach to a situation in our society where we can be just and fair, even in the small little things. This is Your Space with your host, Hannah Renaiter. Bye-bye.